Good morning, Secondary for Social Studies students. This is Mr. Seow, and today I want to work with you on Chapter 10, Cultural Impacts of Globalization, in particular this SRQ essay practice. Before I begin, you should have your worksheet with you, the SRQ7 worksheet on Chapter 10, Cultural Impacts of Globalization. You should also have your Issue 3 notes with you, the essay notes. And if you have your Sec 4 textbook, the textbook on globalization, that could also be helpful. On this worksheet, let's do a quick recap. We know that chapters 8 and 9 have introduced to you the concept of globalization. So globalization refers to the increasing interconnectedness and interdependence of people around the world. And we know that this has happened from chapter 8 due to the developments in technological advancements in transport and digital communications, plus due to the spread and growth of MNCs, which are multinational corporations, big businesses that want to set up shop across the world and in producing complex products that they market to many countries and consumers. They have to create their own supply chains. And these concepts have been discussed at length in chapter 9, which is all about the economic impact of globalization. We explored how companies set up supply chains and franchise shops around the world and how that facilitates trade between countries. And this is good for consumers insofar as you have access to a wider variety of high quality imports from other countries. Good for a country that exports and sells its services and goods to other countries, thereby increasing business, job opportunities, and economic growth, but also leads to vulnerabilities. Vulnerabilities in the sense that if there's a disruption in some part of your supply chain, or this or a war or conflict or crisis or natural disaster in another country, your markets could be disrupted, your suppliers could be disrupted, and therefore your businesses could face headwinds, challenges, or even go into the red, which is to lose revenue and become unprofitable and may have to close down. So these are concepts, mechanisms, and ideas that we have explored in chapter 9 on the economic impact of globalization. And today for chapter 10, we pivot to cultural impacts. So we start with this concept of culture. And what is culture? Let's do a quick recap. Culture is about the customs, beliefs, and practices of a group, right? And this could be an ethnic group, it could be a group in the country. So culture is a very broad way uh, to describe the behavior and the being of this group of people that would have the culture in common. So this is something that is common to a group. Um, the French thinker Pierre Bourdieu called this the habitus, the idea that uh, some sort of scheme of behavior, being, and worldviews that characterize someone. So a group can have this. So maybe I'll add this also worldviews. A group can have a similar set of customs, belief, practices, worldviews. One actually, if you were to think about Singapore, right, and sort of what characterizes Singaporeans, I would say that Singapore culture, insofar as we have a culture, might be characterized by three salient features, and there could be more. But the salient features that come to mind for me is, firstly, uh, the consciousness of being small as a country, and therefore we need to strive for ourselves. We need to be independent because of the smallness of our country, which highlights its vulnerabilities. So the consciousness of smallness, that's one element of our culture. I think another element of our culture is the sort of the respect and striving for diversity. And this is just my musing. So Singapore culture. So consciousness of smallness and vulnerability, the striving for and respect for diversity, and it's made known to us that diversity is not only a feature of our country, ethnic diversity, linguistic diversity, but it's also a strength because it means that when we can communicate across barriers, we gain good civic skills and good interpersonal skills. And moreover, different groups have different strengths which we can tap on, we can leverage to make the country even more vibrant. So that's a second element of the culture. And perhaps the third element of the culture would be mm, openness to the world. So perhaps the most concrete example is every December break, everyone flies to Japan. I've heard it said something like 600,000 Singaporeans go to Japan every year. And this is just an example off the top of my head to say that because we are a small country, so in some sense we depend on the world's business, trade, commerce to sustain ourselves. But also we want to maintain friendly diplomatic relations because we need support from other countries if we were to make our mark on the world. And therefore, a lot of these concepts and ideas that I'm talking about actually draw on different aspects and branches of your social studies syllabus so far. On diplomacy, that is somewhere in chapter 2 on the role of government, and about economic links and trade, that's in chapter 9 on economic globalization. So we have all these elements that characterize Singapore or Singaporeans, and you could think of more, right? The foodiness, like everyone is a foodie and we love to eat good food. Perhaps you can park it under diversity, or you could talk about the kiasuness, the sense of not wanting to lose, wanting to win, wanting to strive. Big education nerds. We want to have all the credentials from O levels. Maybe that comes from vulnerability. So, so these elements and ideas give rise to different behaviors, right? Being kiasu, loving food. And I hope that from this example of Singapore, I have given you a sense of how we can think about culture. Culture is a worldview, a sense of vulnerability that leads to behaviors like being kiasu, not wanting to lose out, and kiasu is meaning not wanting to lose, scared of losing, and and these all add together and mix up into this amorphous idea of a culture. Okay. And so, what happens when you mix globalization and culture? It suggests that every group around the world, its culture starts to spread because globalization is about interconnectedness. So, culture starts to spread around the world. So, there's cultural spread. And that's one impact of globalization because different groups are going to, through communication, through the companies, they are going to spread their products around the world. And the biggest and most popular cultures, the biggest and most popular items, they fit into this thing called a global consumer culture. A consumer culture means what you like to buy, what you like to eat, and what you like to enjoy. And because of this consumer culture that you buy, you eat, and you enjoy, it also leads to the dilution of local cultures. So, some concrete examples. Uh, if you watch Netflix of Korean dramas and American movies, because your bandwidth and time is taken up by the American movie and the Korean drama, and you absorb all these slang from America, all these behaviors from Korea, you start to forget or miss out or ignore some of the local traditions that may have been in present around you in your community, but simply disappear because people don't pay attention, and that's the dilution of tradition. Okay, and this is a 10-minute introduction to the chapter. I'm sorry, it's a recap. I'm sorry I took so long, but I thought this recap was important. so that when I launch into the essays, you are not really lost. So I'm just gonna jump straight into the essay question, which is actually a O level question. Let me just edit this here. So it's the 2020. Is it the 2024? Yeah, it was actually the 2024 O level question. So wow, last year, Happy New Year, everyone. And this is the question that your seniors will have done, which they're collecting the results for just in about less than 2 weeks. Let's try it out. Let's try this question that they just did for O level. And you know that the question is authentic because it's an O level question. Okay, so you know that for essay questions for chapter 7, these are convergent questions. The content will have already been taught to you. You should know the content, and you need to analyze the question, unpack the question for two factors, the focus, and then write few paragraphs, point, elaboration, explanation, link to explain the focus. So in this case, do you think the cultural impact of globalization is greater? So in a sense, you're trying to say that there's a big impact of cultural globalization on entertainment, and this must be factor one. Then on food, and so this therefore should be factor two. Explain your answer. So I go with the flow to write my point, which is the factor and the focus. The cultural impact of globalization is greater on entertainment. That could be one point. So I need to talk all about entertainment in this paragraph. And so there's popular culture, pop culture. What is pop culture? American Hollywood blockbusters, Marvel movies. Some of you will have a lot of knowledge on this and you could elaborate more if you want to. But remember that for SS essays, it's not about how much you know about any particular item, it's about how you use this example to explain your argument. So there is also K-pop groups like BTS. And again, I'm sure some of you will have huge amounts of knowledge and you can write it in, sure, and try to use it also to explain the argument. And they have become ubiquitous. This word ubiquitous is a vocabulary gift from me. It means widespread, it means overwhelming, it means everywhere. So something that's ubiquitous is something that is everywhere. And these ubiquitous dominant cultural entertainment products have displaced traditional entertainment forms such as Indonesian wayang kulit and Singapore's Sin Yao music. How many of you have heard of this Sin Yao music? Very few, I think, because they have been displaced. Because you are more interested in Taylor Swift and BTS and you no longer think or realize that Sin Yao was this Singaporean music form that existed in the 1980s and 1990s. And so I want to talk about the impact of globalization on entertainment. So I need to explain that. So how does globalization affect entertainment? How does globalization change entertainment? And there are multiple ways you could approach this thought. How does globalization affect entertainment? You could think in terms of the industry, the companies. Like with globalization, how do companies change their behaviors? That's one. You could think in terms of the consumers. With globalization and the spread of different types of movies and music, how does that change entertainment for consumers? And in fact, if you think about these two perspectives, you already have two very nice arguments for you. Because I think, off the top of my head, when you globalize these high quality blockbuster superhero movies and K-pop dance groups, who are very good at synchronizing their dance moves and catchy tunes, you sort of set a high standard for the entertainment industry. So in terms of companies, they are all striving to do better. And that is one change to entertainment. And if everyone is trying to do better, at the same time, globalization spreads all these good products around. So consumers get to enjoy even nicer music, even nicer movies. They get even more entertained. And that is the impact on consumers. And I think that this is one good angle by which you could approach this essay. Yeah. So in this case, I went with high standards for entertainment industry. Companies would produce better products. So I'm going to remove this one. I want to write my own explanation now. So this is the business angle. So again, I said that one way you can think about this is by thinking about two perspectives. One perspective is on how does globalization affect businesses. So by raising the standards, companies have to produce better products, thus raising the industry standards. So that's one impact. So now I want to think in terms of the second perspective on consumers. And how I write this perspective, how I write it. Furthermore, the spread of global entertainment products would of high quality would increase consumer satisfaction and enjoyment. Consumers would become more attuned to dominant American and Korean cultures, but might neglect their local traditions and art forms. And I think this would be a good second argument because it taps on the examples you have here about the Korean BTS groups and the American Hollywood blockbuster Marvel movies. So that's where there's a high quality product that increases the satisfaction. But you also mentioned that because they have displaced traditional entertainment forms like Indonesian wayang kulit and Singapore's sinyal music. So there, in that case, uh, there is the example to support your argument here that they have neglected local traditions, and that's how the entertainment industry is changed. That it's more American, less local. Right, so you could even spell that out. So the entertainment industry becomes more American, less local, less diverse. So I think this would be a pretty good argument, if I may say so myself, that tackles oh, but this wouldn't be relevant to consumers, sorry. So I think this would be a pretty good argument that will tackles how consumers get affected in terms of the change in entertainment, the spread of entertainment through culture, through globalization. So maybe I'll just add one more word, which is furthermore, consumer people, um, consumer cultures that facilitate would increase customers. Yeah, okay, good. Okay, I think that these would be good arguments that look at two different angles, how businesses are affected, how consumers are affected. And I thought of these two angles because I'm trying to look at how globalization, the cultural impact of globalization changes entertainment. Okay, I'm gonna move on quickly and wrap up. So for this one, for the second column, you know what you want to do, right? Please pause the video and try it on your own. And I hope that you really tried it on your own. And if there are any things you want to add on as I go through the video, you can always add at the side of the worksheet. So this one I continue on from the statement, the cultural impact of globalization greater on food. So some ethnic cultures spread around the world via food products consumer culture, for example, and some of this may come through the top of your head, or if you don't have it off the top of your head, you can use your textbook, or you can jump to the notes, and the notes are here, and you will see American fast food chains. So let's use this. For example, American fast food chains like Subway and McDonald's are common in many countries. Coffee chains like Starbucks and Coffee Bean are also are also worldwide. And fast food meals may displace local culinary staples. And you could give some examples of local culinary staples, local foods that have been reduced in prominence um, because of this fast food. Um, and perhaps the best examples are think about whatever young cousins or siblings you have, and think about how perhaps your family wants to take them out to have some food, and they demand for McDonald's and KFC. Just have that picture of your younger sibling or your younger cousin in mind screaming for McDonald's and KFC, and then think to yourself, oh, so what are they missing out on? Are they potentially missing out on something that could be a cultural delicacy like kueh or uh, or dumplings? Okay, I'm not that good with food. Anyway, just think about what they're missing out on. So let's go again with the business and consumer angle. And can I invite you to actually annotate with like this like arrow at the side that you are trying to angle it from business and consumer, or if you want to call it company and consumer, because this is one way to think that you have different perspectives, that you have different stakeholders, and that generates multiple explanations. One explanation from the perspective of business, one perspective one argument from the perspective of consumers. So as a result, so from business, food business, let's think about food business. As a result, more food companies may adopt uh, techniques of rapid of pre-preparation preparation pre-preparation and uh, and rapid delivery of of oh processed foods, yeah, uh, which would change food industry practices but potentially lead to less healthy and uh, authentic products for consumers. So that's one. Furthermore, consumers obsessed with fast foods and coffees may lose out on traditional tastes and delicacies. Thus, knowledge of of cultural culinary traditions may be lost, and consumers' palates become less diverse uh, and oversaturated with processed foods. So here I have two different angles about how food industry will change in response to globalization, this dominant fast food chain problem. Actually, we have seen this a bit, right? In one example off the top of my head is Japanese food. Now some Japanese food have also become a bit more fast food. So actually, I can instead of coffee, I don't really use coffee in the explanation. So you can see here, I didn't really use coffee. Let me just remove the coffee example. Um, some other brands may also adopt fast preparation techniques such as sukiya, which is a beef. It is a beef rice bowls. Fast preparation and pre-processing. Pre-processing and rapid delivery of food. Sorry, I think this would be a bit better. So So I removed the coffee example and I put in Sukiya about how other brands learn from the fast food, and that is actually the impact of globalization. Okay, and I think I have some good explanations. I have two solid arguments here. I have two solid arguments here. So how would you write this essay? You would put the question, right? You are going to copy this again in on foolscap because that's part of our practice and learning. And you would write the two P paragraphs. So P1, and P2. P1 is entertainment. Let me just keep the color coding so you can do the matching. And P2. So on foolscap, you would copy the question, you copy P1, you copy P2, and then because this is a practice where we are extending our muscle of thinking and trying to have the capability to write the full essay if we want to, you know that at this point, this is a L3, which could be a 5 to 6 marks, and this could be L3 plus, which could be 6 to 7 marks, and you want to have the capability to jump to 8 marks. And how do you have that capability? We do weighing. So let's go to the last part of this, which is the weighing. And recall that there are two ways to do weighing. There's a stronger factor approach. I pick one. Is it entertainment or is it food that's more important? And there's the balanced conclusion approach, whereas I say, well, both are important. Both are important. So here, I've done the matching for you, right? First you do Q1, then you do Q2, then you do weighing. And one way is the stronger factor approach, where here I've picked entertainment. And then another way is the balanced conclusion approach, where you say both are important because it's equal, because it involves both entertainment and food. They reinforce each other. I want here to talk about the entertainment stronger factor approach, just to show you again how we can analyze this at a deeper level. So here are the analysis I use. I tap on my knowledge of digital technologies of streaming. And you know that entertainment products like movies and music, how do you actually watch and listen to these things? You know from your own knowledge that Netflix, YouTube, and Spotify allow you to watch and listen to new music and watch videos and movies at any point, So there's immediacy. And because of this immediacy, entertainment can spread so fast, so fast. So here I'm really comparing on speed, on rapid access. So it's about the speed that I'm looking at. Whereas food takes greater lag times, because in order for you to have a new food outlet, in order for you to enjoy, let's say, McDonald's or Sukiya in a new place, either you fly to the country or the food comes to you. So they need time to build the supply chain and the franchise, which means that when there's something new, entertainment gets it immediately, but food needs more time. And so, by this argument, the cultural impact of globalization would be faster on entertainment because it spreads faster, it changes the industry, it changes business, and it changes consumer culture even faster. And that's the argument here. And the way I would go about adding it in is it would be my final paragraph, which is the weighing. And in my final paragraph, when I do the weighing, you see that I have the stand, I have the deeper criteria, I have strengthened one side, and I've weakened other side. And this is my weighing paragraph to finally decide, is the cultural impact greater on entertainment or on food? And in my weighing here, I decided it will be entertainment. And again, this is one strategy to compare two sides and say one side is a stronger factor. That's one strategy. This is the stronger factor strategy. The other strategy is the balanced conclusion strategy, where I say both are equally strong. So for this essay, right? For this essay, I would like everyone, after following this video, to write the full essay for the first question, on foolscap, as well as on your worksheet, and then you would do the remaining questions, and here in class we will assign you which questions are to be done as homework. And I hope that for today's lesson, although I had a bit of a longer setup and introduction, I hope that it has been clear. I hope that this 2024 O-level question was discussed in some detail so that you can understand how this question could be approached. And I wish everyone a great year ahead. Thank you.